no? So common siya malisa. Example, imong shoulder, even by the way you sleep, no? By the way you sleep. And then example, you're doing martial arts, no? Pagsagang nimo na kuan siya, naigo siya, it could hurt some of your joints, no? Nagjudo ka, then gi-counteran ka og ano sa judo, gilambos ka, pwede ma-hurt imong mga joints, no? You're doing sports, nagdagan ka, accident happen, it can hurt your joints. So those are the synovial joint. Okay, now let's take a look at the structure of the synovial joint itself, no? So inani siya, no? So naay gi-elaborate diha nga part, no? Naay ligament, naay synovial fluid, naay articular cartilage, and you have a joint capsule. Okay, so those are the structure of joints that are found on our connection between the shoulder girdle and the ang joint diri. Okay, so looking at the structure of synovial joint. So inani ihang itsura, no? On the synovial joints found all over our body. Nasa to ang shoulder, elbow, wrist, diri sa imuhang hip, diba? Hip, knee, and ankle. Inana ang iyang itsura. Na siya ligament which is connecting, no, a band of strong fibrous tissue connecting bone to bone. So, di ba makita nimo sa picture on itabok siya. Connecting bone to bone. Muna siya nakapa-connect sa ilaha. Isa na siya. And then, there's a synovial fluid, a slippery fluid, the consistency of egg whites that is contained within the joint cavity. So, naa siya inana, no? And to reduce friction between the articular cartilage in the joint, no? Kay naaman kay articular cartilage. Katong you remember the top, no, the top end or top and bottom end of the long bones, no? Naa siya katong murag white nga makita nimo sa dulo, no? Dulo sa bukog, no? So ato na lang imagine an example like nagkaon kag manok, di ba? So at the end of the bones imong kaon nga manok, di ba naay puti, no, nga cartilage siya, no, part siya sa bone pero humok siya, and then on the other end there's also something like that. So naay inana nga to ang bukog, and gamit man sila, di ba, articular cartilage to cartilage. If walay synovial fluid, so more friction and more it will have pain, no? Ma-painful siya. So through that framework, through that structure, no, nga na siya fluid, tapos na siya cartilage, minimize ang friction, tapos mahimo siyang shock absorber, no, to prevent friction between the ends of the bones of the joint. And then there is a joint capsule, ano siya iyang part sa synovial joint para ma-connect sila together. So a tough fibrous tissue that has two layers with the fibrous capsule lying outside the synovial membrane. Okay, so mas tough pag yun siya, fibrous tissue niya, two layers. Lahi po tong ligament, napagod siya sa ibabaw. So kwapo siya og protection. So muna siya atong pangalagaan, no? Sabta na tong ay inaana di ang structure sa atong mga joints. So ma-imagine nimo kung dili na nimo siya i-take care tapos mabikil na nato, isa lang ka part ana ang mabikil, that would affect everything in that joint, di ba? Say for example, mabangga nimo imong tuhod, hubag man na siya. So paghubag niya, the rest of the parts there will also be affected. That's why it takes time, no? Pag muhil na siya, iya pa dayon ka maka panglihok-lihok diha. Otherwise, pag dili pa siya fully recovered, it would be very difficult to do things. Okay, moving on to the next part. No, so aside from katong na-mention natong synovial joints all over the body, no, nga katong shoulder, elbow, wrist, hip, knee, and ankle. So na ay three parts, no, three synovial joints nga naapagid siya extra features na siya additional feature. So number one is the shoulder joint. So aside sa ato ang describe dito earlier, naa siya borsa, no? Naa siya borsa as you can see. So in between the ligament and um, another part there na ay borsa. So what is borsa? No? So borsa is a flattened fibrous sac lines with synovial fluid that contains a thin film of synovial fluid. Its function is to prevent friction at sites in the body where ligaments, muscles, tendons, or bones might rub together. Now, prone man gud siya. So, naa siya additional nga feature kay prone siya sa uh, idea nga they might rub together because muna siya pinakagamit kaayo nato nga pinakagamit gid kay nato siya nga part kay what else will move, no? Unsa man day common kay nga ginagamit nato atong kamot ug ato ang tiil, atong legs, no, kay it allows us to move things, to do things, no, go places. Okay, so naa siya additional feature nga gitawag nga si borsa. So the next part which have a synovial joint nga na additional feature is the knee joint. No, so sa knee joint naa kay additional feature diha nga si meniscus. So who is meniscus and what is meniscus doing? So meniscus is a wedge of white fibrocartilage that improves the fit between adjacent bone ends. No, so maka-improve siya sa fit between adjacent bone ends, making the joint more stable and reducing wear and tear on joint surfaces. So, ano siya? Wedge, no? Nakapa-stabilize siya, no? Mura siya na ay mura siya bangil diha adit, no? Bangil nga humok ra siya nga para mas more stable tapos maka-prevent siya og shock, no, kanang too much wear and tear. Okay, then the third one is the ankle joint. So the ankle joint, we have a pad of fat, no, so pad of fat unsa may gibuhat pud ni pad of fat, no? Okay, si pad of fat is a fatty pad that provides cushioning between the fibrous capsule and a bone or muscle. No? So, cushioning na pud siya kay di ba? Siya man gyud pinaka nagdala sa weight sa body. No, siya may naa dito sa ubos. So whatever is your weight, siya pinaka maapektuhan dito. So that part is there to provide cushion, na cushioning between the fibrous capsule and the bone or muscle. So mo na siya ang tulo, na tulo ka parts with additional features. Okay, with regards to talking about position, no, so let's refer to this anatomical position reference. No, muna atong gamiton sa ato ang sa atong klase. So let's refer to this. So naitaw diri facing that way with the hand position like that and the feet like that. So please have a look at that. So when you see or read anterior, so it means nga na siya sa atubang, posterior na sa likod, tapos transverse is naa sa sa likod ana nga area, ana nga plane, di ba? And then proximal, distal, lateral, medial, inferior, superior, coronal plane, sagittal plane. Okay. So para lang na siya we have a common understanding kay the more as we progress more the movements will be attached with terms that are posterior, anterior, superior, lateral, ana. So if naglibog ka, you can go back to this anatomical position reference. Okay. So still we are under skeletal system. For the purpose of PE32 class, synovial joints will be classified into 5 types. No, 5 ka klase sa synovial joints. Number 1 is what we call the ball and socket. So, ball and socket, inana ang iyahang description, a ball-shaped head of one bone articulates with a cup-like socket of an adjacent bone. So, ga-partner sila. One is a ball and one is a socket. No? So, example from the skeleton, we have the shoulder, head of the humerus with glenoid, fossa of scapula, and then the hip, head of the femur with acetabulum of pelvis. So, gapari sila. Ball and socket. And then for the mobility, movement can occur in 3 planes. These joints allow the greatest range of movement. Okay. Diba? Greatest range yun kay diba? O, yun siya, 3 planes. So, pwede nimo mapalikod, matubangan, makilid. Diba? And as well as your sa imuhang legs, diba? Diha starting sa joints nimo diha sa imong hip, diba? Pwede nimo siya ma-move. So even more kung anad ang imong lawas sa inana nga mga stretch nga makaya nimo og palihok in different angle ang imuhang upper or lower extremities. So the joints that is responsible for the movements like that, no, nga ma-maximize nimo tanan nga direction is the ball and socket type of synovial joint. Next is the hinge, no? Hinge. Kung may hinge, kung sa part sa atong purtahan kanang bisagra, that's the hinge. Okay, so example from the skeleton is the elbow, knee, and the ankle. Okay, di ba? Pwede nimo siya mana, di ba? Sirado, abre. Sirado, abre. Okay, sa imong wrist pod, sirado, abre. Sirado, abre, di ba? Murag portahan. And then sa imong knees, you can also do that as well as to your ankle. And then description, cylindrical protrusion of the bone articulates with a throw-shaped depression of an adjacent bone. So inani ang iyahang inani na ang iyahang structure. Nara si humerus, and then ang iyahang kaatbang kay si ulna, no, and that's how they will be joined together as a joint. And then ang iyang movement is not as free as the ball and socket. Movement is restricted to one plane, no, you cannot do it freely like the other one, no, restricted to one plane. So meaning to say, kung diha ra ka, no, example sa elbow, di ba? So kana ra dili na nimo siya mabali dito kuan pikas nga mura siya og swing door, dili nimo siya ma-swing door, isa ra siya, one way ra siya nga pagka-open. Okay, this joint allows bending and straightening only. I-bend, straight. Nga ra siya, si elbow, si knee, si ankle. Okay, that's kung inana ra ang iyang kaya nga mobility, that is what we call hinge. Next is pivot. No? Examples from the skeleton is radioulnar spine, atlas axis joint at the top. A rounded or pointed structure of one bone articulates with a ring-shaped structure of an adjacent bone. So nara diri imong radius og si ulna. Okay, movement is restricted to one plane. This joint allows rotation about its longitudinal axis. Okay, longitudinal axis. Number 5, gliding. Number 5 is gliding. Examples from the skeleton is spine, and then between bony process of the vertebrae in the cervical, thoracic, and part of the lumbar regions. Description: articulating surfaces are almost flat and of the same size. Okay, so imong gliding joints as you move, kay mo na siya dihang gipakita og gliding joint. And then gliding allows movement in 3 planes but it is severely limited, di ba? So makabend man ka dito, forward, backward, sides, but then limited siya. Dili gini mo siya ingon nga pilo nimo to the max. Dili siya, limited. Then next one is number, okay, 5 raman day siya.